This Friday, Seacoast Stories Live is back. We sold out the press room and the Word Barn earlier this year, and we're hoping to do that again at 3S Art Space. The doors open at 7 o'clock, and the show will begin promptly at 7:30. On this night, I'll sit down first with Dagan Migerdich of Liar's Bench Beer Company. We'll discuss the origin story of this West End brewery, what makes Portsmouth so special, and why he is passionate about a subject many of you also care about: housing. After that, past guest Laura Fox takes the stage to play some of her signature love songs. We'll chat for a little bit after that as well. And then in our headlining performance of the night, Erin Holt, the functional nutritionist herself, rejoins the podcast for a discussion about how she built an 8-figure business, what it takes to become a successful entrepreneur, dealing with limiting beliefs, how to thrive in today's not-so-great economy, and so much more. This is the final episode of Season 3, and it'd mean the world to us to see you there. Thank you so much in advance for supporting the show. Now on to today's episode. Welcome to Seacoast Stories, a podcast about the people, businesses, and newsmakers that make the Seacoast an American hidden gem. I'm Troy Farkas, and on today's episode, an interview with me. It's conducted by Jennifer Wilder, the owner of Laney & Lou and Ginger Fox, and a recent podcast guest. This is the penultimate episode of Season 3 of the show, and we figured there was no better way to wrap up what has been an insane year of growth for the podcast than by coming together to create more podcast magic one final time. So on today's episode, Jen asked me questions about a lot of things I've never really thought about before. I tell a story none of you have ever heard. It's a story about the day that completely changed the entire trajectory of my life 13 years ago to the day, December 1st, 2012. We also talk more about my battle with type 1 diabetes, which I opened up about a few weeks ago with Ellie Shaheen. I also explain why I like to sometimes hide behind the microphone, how I approach interviewing, whether I've ever wanted to quit Seacoast Stories, and a whole lot more. Honestly, this becomes a therapy session for me, so if you like hearing people's innermost thoughts that they never share, let alone think about, this one's for you. Today's episode is presented by Little Tree Education and Studio H. And after the interview with me, Jen and I will answer some of your questions. Questions about business, advice to our younger selves, our futures, and more. All of that soon to come. But for one final time this year, here is me and Jennifer Wilder. I want to ask you a couple questions first, Jen. So we released part 1 and part 2 with you about a month ago at the time we're speaking. And I was blown away by the reaction to it. I would probably say there was more feedback, more people stopping me in person and messaging me online to give me their thoughts on this episode, which was all positive. So I'm just wondering, what were some of the things that people told you? What were the things that you heard, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I was equally as surprised. It was a really, really wild experience for me. I think just being in the room with you, we obviously talked for an incredibly long period of time. It was nearly a 3-hour plus interview. No, it's fine. But we both said afterwards, like, wow, we were both exhausted. Yeah. And for approximately 1 week afterwards, I just did not feel like myself. And I felt like, am I sick? Am I getting sick? And then it occurred to me maybe 4 or 5 days later, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, this is vulnerability. I had the biggest vulnerability hangover that I have ever had. And I think also it was probably a little bit of grief, like experiencing that conversation with you and then reliving a lot of that trauma and that heartache. It was really real for me. And so I kind of reprocessed a little bit the following week. And, and then when the podcast came out, I was terrified, to be honest. I had to re-listen to it because there were certain parts where I didn't remember what I said and truly felt like, oh my gosh, what have I done? But then the feedback was incredible. So many people taking me aside or DMing me, texting me, emailing me, some that I knew, but many that I didn't, saying, wow, your story in so many ways has had an incredible impact on me. And I want to tell you a little bit about my story. And that's what really touched my heart in the deepest way is the number of people that talked about their own sexual harassment in the workplace, or heartbreak with abusive relationships, or loss in business. And I had really no idea that my stories would open so many other people up. And that was really beautiful.
And a lot of these things that you shared, your 20 years in corporate manufacturing before Laney and Lou, you talked about opening Laney and Lou Portsmouth, how difficult that was behind the scenes professionally and personally. Like a lot of these things you hadn't really talked about before, right?
Yeah, I hadn't talked about many of those things. I had mentioned sexual harassment on many stages or many podcasts, but never really as directly or boldly as I did with you. And actually, I don't know why this is just popping into my head, but literally maybe 2 hours after you launched that first podcast where I talk about that, an old colleague reached out and just said, and it literally out of nowhere, I haven't talked to this person for 2 decades, maybe, or a decade. I just wanted to let you know how beautiful you are. Wow. And my heart exploded out of my chest. Like I was like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. He's coming after me and I shouldn't have said anything. And this is why people don't tell their stories. And then I just wrote back something like, thanks for reaching out or something. And I didn't know what to say. I shouldn't have said anything now that I'm thinking about it. And he just wrote back, looks like you're killing it. And that's it. And I was like, okay, that was the weirdest coincidence ever.
Wow.
But yeah, I hadn't talked about that as directly. And then also, to tell people what was happening in my personal life during the launch of Portsmouth, like you just said, that was really real. And then it makes you wonder, like, will people think less of you, or will that take anything away from the beauty of that moment? And for so many that talked to me about it, they just said like, wow, thank you.
Yeah. Pretty crazy, because I had some of these stories shared with me as well. And I'm sure you got way more. The things that women experience in the workplace, it's become unintentionally a theme on the podcast recently. My conversation with Erin Snow, she talked about wild things that she experienced at every stage of her life with men in places of power. Katie Grimes, the local business coach, she had talked about sexual violence toward her. And it's just mind-blowing to me just how prevalent this is. I think we hear the stat all the time, 1 in 3, 1 in 4 women have experienced sexual misconduct in some way, but I've been hearing story after story after story, and it disgusts me. And I'm sure you've gotten a lot of those as well.
Yeah, totally. And honestly, I think every single human has experienced it in their own way, some more than others, some in more egregious ways than others. But the statistics are really, really awful. And I'm not sure if you and I have talked about this, but following the podcast, I've talked to many men and said, like, you need to stand up too. You need to feel empowered to tell your own stories, because it isn't always men treating women poorly. Although I do think that's probably the greater percentage. It's happening to men as well. And I've had, plenty of very powerful men tell me stories that I feel are just devastating, because if you're a man that's being abused by your partner, are you really going to stand up and say, oh, I know I'm a 200-pound successful man that's being abused by my 120-pound wife? That's hard to, It's hard to stand up and try to tell someone and feel like you're going to get believed.
Exactly.
And so I think what is really important is that people feel empowered to get themselves into safe environments, into safe relationships, and surround themselves with people that will keep them safe. And, following the podcast, very quickly after that was the Haven annual gala. And I had the opportunity to listen to Tito Jackson tell his story. And in the midst of his keynote, he essentially stopped mid-sentence and gave a shout out to the men in the group, in the crowd. There were over 200 people there, saying, you guys are responsible to stand up and put a stop to things that are happening in our communities, in our friend groups, in our workplaces that are, causing people to feel unsafe, right? So if you're, say, in the locker room with your friends at the gym and they're talking about, oh, remember that chick at the whatever, on the treadmill, and she's this and she's that, like, how powerful it would be for you, Troy, to go, you know what, guys? I'm not going to participate in this conversation. Or, you know what, I know her and she's really, she's a lot more than that. Whatever. It's just important for people to stand up and do the right thing. And I think, wow, what would my corporate life look like if I had had someone stand up for me? There were so many times in those 20 years where there were a group of people that heard people say things to me or do things to me that they never said anything. They just stayed silent. We could all do better.
Yeah.
We can all stand up. We can all do the right thing. We can all shut down the drama and the chaos and the gossip and the inappropriate comments.
Yeah. I heard from several fathers in my messages who said, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and this really woke me up to maybe what they are experiencing when they walk outside of our home every day, which I thought was really powerful to hear.
Yes.
It's always so funny to me when I get comments. I'm so grateful for it, but I usually just think it's just like me and you were talking to each other. I forget that other people are hearing, and your episode really reminded me of that, just how many people are hearing this, how much it's resonating with them, and how much it brings this community closer together and wakes us up to what's going on.
I think you're so right. I mean, I know for me in that interview, I totally just was dialed in to the conversation and to you. And I did kind of forget like, whoa, this is going to go to a lot of people. And I don't know how many listeners actually listen to it, but again, nothing that I have ever done publicly, whether it be a keynote, an event, a podcast, et cetera, has garnered as much feedback and attention as those interviews. So,
wow.
So thank you for, I guess, digging deep and presenting that in a way that made me feel, really safe to do so.
Yeah, I'm really honored that you feel that way. That's the biggest honor for me, is that people like yourself on the show come on and spill their guts out to me. This is not, there's a lot of feel-good things that come out of Seacoast Stories, but there's also a lot of dark stuff that is said on this show. A lot of stuff that people don't tell other people, that they've never said before. And the fact that people trust me with those things just makes me feel so good. If the question that I've been asking people on the show is how do you want to be remembered, or what do you want people to say about you? And the fact that that is something people think of with me is that I could tell Troy anything and he wouldn't judge me for it, and I felt safe to do it. That feels so good to me. So
yeah, absolutely. You. And everyone has a story. Everyone has stuff. Everyone's carrying a backpack full of bricks. And if we don't understand that and see people through that lens with compassion, empathy, we've got to look at ourselves a little bit deeper in the mirror. And I think that being able to get people to talk about the hard stuff, that's what really drives us. And frankly, I'm hoping we can talk about that with you today, because what inspires people to do great things is typically something hard and challenging.
Yep. And you can brag to your fellow restaurateur, David Vargas. You have surpassed, he was previously the most listened to episode. So I hope you can brag to him about that. Because I know he was very, very proud of being the number one spot until you usurped him. But that's enough of that. You want to ask me some things about my story. I have no idea what you're going to ask me. I'm an open book. I have other people be an open book on this show, so I have to return the favor. So Jen Wilder, the microphone is in your hands. What do you want to know?
Oh my gosh. Well, as you know, I've wanted to do this for a really long time. I am not a podcast host, so I am absolutely terrified right now. Not yet. I've had it on my my vision board for the last 2 years. It hasn't happened, but I have notes and I'm going to use them, which I was noticing when we were together for 3.5 hours. You didn't look at a single note the entire time, which is impressive, but not so for me today. Okay.
That's okay.
So you and I are good friends, and we've had a lot of conversations off from the mic. And like we've said, I've had the pleasure of being interviewed by you twice now. And we've both walked through some really big things over the last couple of years. And the more you care about someone, the more you get to know them, the more you realize the layers, right? And which is what we were just talking about. And I feel like for you, you can really use the podcast as a way to sort of step back, right? Because you're doing all of the questioning, you're doing all the exploration of others. And oftentimes you don't necessarily have to reveal about yourself. Mm-hmm. I know that you do sometimes, but I'm hoping to bring more of you into the room today. And obviously, I have an incredible amount of respect for what you do, but I have a deeper respect for who you are as a human. So I'm hoping that we can bring that out.
Thank you.
Today, for sure. Absolutely. So I'm hoping we can get behind and beneath you, like who's the producer brain, the host we all hear about, what's shaped you, what are you wrestling with, and what do you dream about? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, let's keep it simple for now.
Okay.
What's lighting you up this month?
This month, so we are speaking in November. This month, what's lighting me up is last week, Wednesday night, I had a crazy night. So it's 5 p.m. I'm in Hampton. This is the night of Seacoast Stories Dinner Club in Hampton and of Catapult Seacoast 10 to Watch Awards. I have to be in two places at once. So we have 95 people coming out to dinner in Hampton, which was our biggest number of people. We were in Exeter the month prior, 55 people. You were there, 95 people a couple of weeks later in Hampton, which was crazy. So I go around to all the restaurants before any of the reservations show up, just to tell the restaurants, hey, what's happening here? Because this is a very strange thing that's happening here. Hey, strangers are coming here to meet. They're going to walk in very confused. You need to guide them in the right place. Here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing this. And then I also leave a note for every single participant at their dinner table. So I'm hustling 7-8 restaurants in Hampton, talking to the staff members, leaving these notes. And I just remember having a moment where I was at Hagen's in Hampton, looking at 3 tables of my people that I don't know, that are my listeners, but I don't know them. There's so many people coming to these dinners. I have no idea who they are, which is good. That means like, hey, it's not just your friends and family listening. And I just remember having a moment, man, this is so cool that when I set out to do Seacoast Stories, such a big tenet of it was bringing people together, and to be bringing people together in this unique way that I never expected I would when I started this show a year and a half ago, to have that come to fruition, this many people participating, and then I'm going to go leave. I don't even need to be in the equation for these people to enjoy this night. I'm going to go race to Dover, where I'm being recognized by local Young Professionals Network Catapult for their annual 10 to Watch Awards. Second year in a row, they nominate 20 young professionals across different industries who are doing big things on the Seacoast. And then on the award show nights, they choose 10 people as like the 10 to watch. So I was nominated last year, the 20, didn't make the 10. I was feeling really good about my chances to make the 10 this year, but you never actually know. So then I raced to Dover for this award show. They call my name last out of all the 10 people. They make me sweat, but I did end up making it up there, take a couple photos, and then bounce to go back to Hampton to go to the after party at Shane's Texas Pit, where I met, 60 to 70 listeners, and for 4 hours. And I'm just there hanging with all these different people who are listeners of the show, who are maybe not listeners of the show, found out about Dinner Club, and now maybe they will be listeners of the show. So that night in particular was just so special. Wow, I'm bringing people together. Wow, I'm winning an award. Wow, I get to go connect with all of these people who are supporting me and believing in my vision. And it's just all happening, which that lit me up. That night lit me up so much.
That is so cool. And also, I feel like such a great example of what it's like to be in the first couple of years of business and creating something really big and having to be like all the things in all the places for all the people.
Yeah.
So that's very cool.
Yes, I'm
proud of you.
Definitely all of the things and all the people right now.
So I did a deep dive into our text history, and I went all the way back to the beginning because I was trying to remind myself the first podcast that I did with you was The Found Generation. Yep. And that was March of 2024.
The live podcast at the Music Hall Lounge. Yep.
Correct. So it's hard to believe that we're going to be we're almost 2 years in.
Wow.
We almost have our 2-year friendiversary coming. And okay. So then in early May 24, you and I got together. We had a quick brainstorming session where you introduced the concept of Seacoast Stories to me and said, I'm just kind of curious. This is what I'm thinking about doing. This is how I want to pivot. This is who I am, but this is what I'm trying to create. You know this community pretty well. What do you think? And you and I had a great conversation, and then like a whole flurry of texting after that on the strategy and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Buried inside one of those text messages, you said you wanted to create local stories for local people. And you wanted to host multiple events per year in tight-knit communities. And I just wanted to mirror that to you because I was like, I'm getting chills.
Wow.
I'm getting chills because I'm like, here we are. It's November of 2025 and you fucking did it.
Yeah.
You did it, but you did it in such a big way. So that's less than 18 months later.
Yeah.
And look at what you've created. I think that's so epic.
Wow.
So I just wanted to make you think about that for a second.
Yeah. I don't do a great job of patting myself on the back too much and stepping back because, as you told me, I am in it right now.
Yeah.
I am doing all the things. I am Jen circa 2015, making smoothies, washing dishes, taking out the trash, running the books, everything. I'm fully in it right now as any founder of a business is at the very beginning. And so because it's just like on to the next thing, I got to figure this out. I got to plug this hole. I got to improve this thing without really taking the step back to appreciate, wow, 95 people came to this thing. Wow, we're going to do a live podcast at 3S Art Space in 2 weeks. Wow, we sold out the press room and the Word Barn, and we performed at Prescott Park this summer. And we've gotten an award and done so many things and had so many amazing conversations and released so much content. I haven't taken the time to really appreciate that until you saying that just now. It's, I was at Granite Goodness live podcast last night in Manchester, where we got a lot of like New Hampshire change makers together in the same room. And something that was said on stage that really stuck with me was that in this state, and it's not like this in other states, if there's a problem and you want to address it, you will face no friction in wanting to address it. And you will have 10 people immediately who want to support that vision and make it become a reality. And as I marinated on that, I said, yeah, of all the other places I've lived in, I have not gotten that vibe. You can really do whatever you want in this state. If you have a vision, people will help you with that. And I feel that way with Seacoast Stories. I saw the problem of, sure, there's local media around here, but they're not telling the stories people actually want to hear. Gone are the days of the lengthy profile and the magazine and the newspaper and on TV. I can do that. People crave that. Maybe they don't know they crave that, but they do crave that. And there's this loneliness epidemic that is sure happening here and happening everywhere. And I want to bring people together. And then also creatively, I was just creatively kind of stuck in that moment. And I was like, I want to live here. I want to make this home. I want to embed myself within this community. How can I do that? Boom. Seacoast Stories checked all of those boxes for me. And to your point, it's so cool to see all of that come to fruition. So thank you for reminding me of that. What a trip that must have been going through the old text messages.
It was a lot of fun for sure. And what an incredible, I guess we'll just call it an evolution, and maybe a revolution in so many ways, but an evolution for the community, for yourself, et cetera, in such an incredible short amount of time. And I think with everything you just said there, one thing that is a common theme there is what the spaces that you are creating and the spaces that you are holding for other people, which is a really beautiful thing and obviously is having incredible impact. Which brings me back to one of the first text messages you ever sent to me was, I want to find more ways to create impact together. That's what you said to me.
Really?
And which I love because impact is such a huge theme for me. But I was just seeing all these little tidbits and I was like, I think it's just so genius that you've done it. Like, it's very cool and you're doing it. But my question for you is, who's holding space for you?
It used to be yoga, but then I made the beautiful mistake of becoming a yoga teacher where I then had to go hold further space for people and fewer opportunities because I've been teaching so much, now taking less yoga classes.
It's ironic, right?
Yeah. And so now the space wasn't really being held for me. I will tell you where the space is really held for me is with the person who, and I'm sure she'll come up multiple times, is the person who really is why I'm here, still in Portsmouth, doing what I'm doing and inspires so much of what I'm doing, is Stephanie, who owns Three Bridges Yoga. She, to this day, is like the one that holds space for me. And I feel so bad about that because she holds space for so many people in this area as a teacher, as an owner, as a boss, and just as a kind person who can't tell people no. But she and I have a very special, unique relationship. And I'd say she's the one that I know I can go to anytime and she will be happy to, and I'm not bothering her. And she's the one who holds space for me more so than anyone. Otherwise, yeah, it's tough, but I'm okay.
It's one of the most beautiful things that I get to experience in the restaurant is being able to kind of stand on the sidelines, back at the register or at the counter and watch other people. And I did witness you and Stephanie having a coffee or lunch the other day, and you were sitting at the window. And I think you sat there for probably 2 or 3 hours. And it was really beautiful to be able to witness that friendship from afar. And it's very clear that you guys have a very deep love for each other and a very special relationship. So thank you for sharing that.
And thank you for creating spaces where we can connect in such ways.
I think I know the answer to this one, but obviously you've spent the last, 2 years, probably beyond that, telling other people's stories, preparing the spaces, holding the spaces. But do you think you have an appreciation that you too have a story worth sharing?
Oh, absolutely. But I think I have this deep-seated belief because of perhaps my past and my upbringing in the media business. When I was at ESPN and Spotify, I was told by my basketball coach way back when, your job is to get the rebound and then pass it to our star player. In choir, I never got the solos. In media, I was the behind the scenes guy. I was only speak when spoken to. And so I think I just had it beat down upon me for so long that my story was not worth sharing. My voice was not worth being heard. My job was to amplify other people and make other people look good, but not myself. So a lot of people may see what I do as being so noble and noteworthy. I sit back for 2 hours and just ask questions about other people and devote every fragment of my attention to another person, which sounds great on the surface. I love doing that, but it's also, I get to hide behind that. No one's gonna come at me for not using my voice when I'm doing so under the guise of amplifying other people's voices. So in some ways, this podcast and a lot of other storytelling things I've done through the years is me hiding my story in like a justifiable, noble way. And I feel like that's still something I'm combating.
Yeah, well, maybe we can work on that a little bit today. And I'm just curious, okay, let's go back. Do you have a message for younger Troy based on what you just said?
Yeah. I would tell younger Troy, 15, 16-year-old Troy, you can be the beta for now. You can be the B side. You can be the supporting cast, the supporting character, but it's all to prepare you to be the main character.
Love that.
Yeah. So get your reps.
So one of the things as a small business owner, as we were saying, you have to be all things to all people all the time, it feels, at least in this growing phase, right? I don't know, maybe other people can do it differently, but you and I are doing it very similarly, I guess. One of the things that also comes with that is because you're forward facing in your business, as am I, people people form their own opinions of who you are. And they actually think that they know you in so many ways. And I'm just wondering, what's something that people project onto you that may not be true, that isn't really who you are? Do you know what I mean? So for me, we've
what's
talked
something
about,
that people think about you?
Yeah. So we've talked about the boss babe what is that? Persona. It is. And how that's not a persona that I truly identify with. And that was placed on me for so many different reasons. Is there a persona or identity or a set of descriptors that have been put on you that you go, that's not really actually true. It's not really representative of me.
Wow. That's a good question. I don't really know what other people think of me. I've been getting this a lot recently. Everyone and their mother is telling me that I am crushing it. In a lot of ways I am, as we've spoken to, but I don't necessarily feel like I'm crushing it. I still, I see all the flaws, all the holes. I've left 2 jobs this year. The money is not coming in the same way it once was. And so as a single diabetic man in Portsmouth, it's expensive for me to exist. And so I really can't see past, the holes in the bank account. And so I'm just trying right now, okay, how can I make this work? How can I make Seacoast Stories into a full-time business, a dream business. 85% of indie podcasters, of which I am unaffiliated with a large company, do not make money.
Mm-hmm.
I am fighting an uphill battle. I have known that since day one. I am trying to buck a trend here that Seacoast Stories is one of the top 10% most popular podcasts in the country. It is successful by a lot of the metrics, not financially, not yet. Again, I'm still early, still very much in the building stages. So I'm trying to figure out, how to actually be crushing it in the ways that people see. But I guess people don't understand the business. Like, no one's paying me. No one's signing paychecks for me. I have to go scratch and claw for every dollar. I'm not working for WMUR. I'm not working for the Boston Globe. I'm not working for any media organization. So I think people they see, the growing social media accounts and the sold out events and the dinner clubs. They're like, man, he is crushing it. And I'm like, I am crushing it in that way, but not financially. And, as we were talking this current moment, I don't know what my 2026 is going to look like. I don't know if I'm going to have to go back into the actual media world, which I don't want to do. I do not want to do any more behind the scenes work for bigger companies that don't care about me as a person. I'm so past that. But we'll see how it all shakes out.
I mean, that resonates with me so much. We're both in really challenging industries.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I don't know. I kind of went back and forth in my head in preparation for the podcast. I was like, do we want to get into the business of podcasting? Do we want to peel back those layers? And there's so many times where things happen in my world where I kind of want to jump on Instagram and say, well, let me explain what I call the value of $1 for a restaurant and how this actually works. While I appreciate that you're crushing it mentality, do you know what I'm having to put into it, the time spent and why it's morning till night? And so everything that you're saying is yes. And I actually decided not to ask you about the business of podcasting.
You can.
In a lot of ways, I think I want to talk about you, but in a lot of ways, maybe that's a conversation for another day, because I think it is helpful for people to understand, it's not just, the money's not just arriving on your doorstep, right? You're having to go navigate how to excavate that for yourself and
trying to do something in an area that this has never been done before.
It's never been done before.
So I'm having to constantly virtually or in real life bang on the doors of people who don't understand what I'm doing.
Yes.
So I have to convey A, what I'm doing, and B, why it's valuable and something that you should want to be a part of.
Well, as someone that I think has a pretty good handle on what's happening in the community and the heartbeat of the community, et cetera, the impact that you have and this podcast has on the community is incredible. The number of, again, just from my experience of my two podcasts, the number of people that have said something to me and the demographic, the diversity in demographic of the people that have said something to me about it has really been, as a business person looking at it from that side of things, I'm like, oh, wow, that's impressive. So if there's anyone listening that is thinking about sponsoring the podcast, I think that, the value statement for that is incredible.
Yeah.
And I think it's well worth it. And your listenership is wide and broad. Yeah. And these people are also the people that are driving our local economy.
Yeah.
Which is really, really important.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I have anecdote after anecdote, message after message. I go to La Melita now every week because after hearing that story, I had heard of the shop. I'd been wanting to go for a while, but then after that episode, I had to go and now I can't stop going. We did our Seacoast Singles Night in September. Lex Morton and I, who co-hosted that event, we got a message on Halloween from a couple who did a couple's Halloween costume and said, we met at Seacoast Singles. You brought us together. I have so many amazing stories. My wife and I listen to your show every Monday night while we're cooking dinner. Every workout, I'm listening to Seacoast Stories. This is the highlight of my Monday. I just have story after story of what this is doing for business, of what this is doing for bringing people together, and all the things. And so, it's been great to see that impact. Coming up, why most of my friends are women, an inside look at how I approach interviews, and the day that changed my life forever. All of that in a moment. But first, I'm a yoga teacher, and I feel like I spend half my life talking about preventative health. Eat well, move your body, get sunlight, etc. We do all this, right? So we can avoid problems before they show up. Well, turns out that same mindset applies to your hair as well. That's where Studio H comes in. It's the salon tucked right next to Southport Kitchen in Rye. You've probably driven by it on your way to get a lobster roll your wallet definitely didn't need. Studio H offers non-medicated, non-invasive hair loss and scalp health solutions. They focus on finding the actual root cause, pun absolutely intended, and they help you build a long-term plan. They'll even walk you through dandruff, psoriasis, and scalp stuff that we all pretend that we don't Google at 11 p.m. And let's be honest, when you're strolling into downtown Portsmouth for a night out, you want to feel like the main character, not like someone who just lost a fight with a hat. Great hair helps. Studio H can help. And here's the kicker. Now through the end of the year, Studio H is giving you $100 off a hair consultation. Normally, it's $200. Now it's 50% off. Easy. Just hit the contact box on their website, link in the show notes, type Seacoast Stories, and they will reach out to you to book your discounted consultation. Thank you, Studio H, for supporting the show. Now back to Jen Wilder, who continues to put me on the hot seat.
Before you saw the potential in yourself, who saw it? Who was the person that was, lifting you up when you were little?
Oh, when I was little. Okay. Shout out to Miss Blades, my 7th and 8th grade English teacher. I'm a writer by trade. That's my craft. Podcasting, I lucked into. I'm a published author. I've released more blogs than I have podcasts. And so I loved writing growing up and still do love writing. And so I would write these, would always get A's on my papers in English. And I was in advanced programs. And I just remember my teacher, Miss Blade, just always telling me about how much potential I had and how I was going to make a big impact one day and that people would be Googling my name one day and things of that nature. And I think this is why, it's become a constant theme of the show and in my life. I am way more comfortable and feel way more supported by women than I do men. Hence why I have so many close relationships with so many women, why I have way more female role models than I do male role models, because I had amazing teachers like Miss Blades back in the day who would lift me up. Whereas the men in my life, I had one male teacher, which we got to change that. Young men need male role models. So men, go teach. 2, a lot of my coaches, I played sports, were terrible role models. And when I look back on the things that these people said to me when I was 15, 16, calling me a pussy every single day I walked in to basketball practice, me and my teammates walking past each other in the halls the day after a loss with a very scared look in our faces of, oh my God, what are we about to get into the next day? What's going to be thrown at us? What's going to be said at us during this practice today? And I think all of that, stems as to why I gravitate way more toward women than I do to men, just because women were very supportive of me growing up. Men were not. Interesting.
Yeah. What about the role of your father?
My dad's great. Now, however, so people don't really know this about me. It's a weird story. So my parents have been happily married 30 something years, but my dad didn't live with us growing up. So I come from the media family, newspaper business. I moved to Albany, New York. My dad becomes an editor there. He leaves that job when I'm in 2nd grade to go take a job to be the executive editor of the Berkshire Eagle in Massachusetts. And because we were in a really good school system in upstate New York and sports, he didn't want to pull us out. So my brother and my mom and I, we stayed in Albany, but my dad went to go live in Massachusetts. And he would come home every other weekend for my sports games and stuff and would be there. But my dad wasn't there for me 2nd grade to, through college during the formative moments of my life. Sure, he came to my games, but that was it. He was my buddy. We would go play tennis together. We would do whatever, but I didn't have that my dad never gave me the birds and the bees talk. We didn't do any of the things that a dad and his son might do. It was my mom that had to be the one to give me dating advice to a 13-year-old, and my mom who had to help me with my homework, and my mom who had to take me to all the practices and do all the things. So I love my dad. We're very close now, but back in the day in my formative years, I didn't have strong male role models.
Interesting. So do you think it's your mom that taught you how to be such a great listener? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. The being a great listener part, I've always been curious. I was a history student. That was my major. And I've always loved learning. I've always loved learning school. So that's where the curiosity part comes of it. But the listening part really comes from just my career working at ESPN, I was a producer to as a 21-year-old kid, which is wild, to some very famous people, to some very prominent people in the sports media world, people with awards out the wazoo, with Emmys and with millions of social media followers and millions in the bank. And I'm just a 21-year-old kid really learning from them about how to listen, about how to interview, about how to hold space, about how to ask a good question. And I've certainly mastered any of that by no means, but I got a front row seat to learn how to listen to people, how to make someone feel like they are the most important thing in your life at that present moment, how to orient your body language toward them, how to give them your eye contact, and just to make people feel special, because that's all anyone ever wants to feel, is to feel special. And so I think I have an uncanny ability that I've worked on through the years to be able to just make someone feel so special and important in that moment. And I think that's why people tend to tell me all these things on the podcast. That's by design. That is a learned skill through the years. So that's not something that was perhaps innate to me. That was something I worked on through the years and picked up by working with all these people who were already very good at it.
But I will say it's also very genuine. It's very clear that you're not, when you're doing it, you're not like, oh, I need to try to be present or I need to try to be curious. It is deep within you. It's who you are. So maybe you learned how to perfect it, but it's certainly part of your character,
and
part of your fabric.
I love life stories. I mean, a part of the reason why I also don't love telling my stories, because I know my story up in here. I journal about it all the time. I go through it up here. I know my story. I don't need to tell other people about it, but I want to know yours in hopes that I can find what are the commonalities we have? What struggles did you face that maybe I'm facing right now? What lessons can I learn from you? So it's also kind of like a selfish endeavor as well when I'm having all these conversations, because I'm like, man, I kind of faced a similar moment. There's been so many questions. I remember asking Laura Fox earlier this year, because she was at a very similar point in her life as to where I was at that point. She was 29. She had been waitressing in Boston and wanted to do something else. And then she left that and then became an intern at 29 at Rocca creative marketing agency. And we talked about the Saturn return and how at 29, it's just very common. There's something going on in the stars that people want to change everything in their lives. And apparently that's a very common thing. And so I was asking her, hey, when you found yourself in this moment of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, dreaming of a better life, but you don't know how to get there, what advice would you give to someone who's in that moment? That was me. I was in that moment, but I was masking it as if I wasn't. Okay,
that's brilliant. Now I'm going to be listening for that next time. We talked about, before we started the record button today, we talked about how you've been on kind of a string of really, intense podcast conversations, a lot of conversation around abuse, and, challenging stories. And I'm just kind of curious, like when you're in those types of conversations, or really any, I guess, podcast conversations, like what are you listening for? You're obviously you're really listening like for something beneath the words. Are you doing that mindfully, or is it just part of your craft?
What I'm doing here is really out of the ordinary, because perhaps some of the other podcasts you listen to where you're getting into it with people, I am host and producer and cameraman all in one right now. I'm having this conversation, but I'm also monitoring, how does this sound? How does this look? How's the light? Like, I'm always constantly thinking about all these things and holding the conversation. So I have to deal with so much more than maybe some of your other favorite podcast hosts. But there's all sorts of calculations I'm running in my mind as I'm listening to you speak. It's, okay, I enter into this podcast with the concept, with an outline of how I want this to unfold. And I want to stick to that to keep everything in line. But I also want to deviate when appropriate. So I'm constantly calculating, all right, do I bring Jen back to where I want her to go? Or do I follow her on this journey she's now taking me on? Because sometimes it leads you nowhere. Sometimes it leads you to gold that you weren't expecting to. My favorite piece of advice that was given to me on this show came from our mutual friend, Michael, who said to me on the show last year, he's an actor. He was in acting school and he had this assignment for this scene he was acting out. And the assignment was, Michael, you are in this situation right now where your car's at the shop and you have to go to the pharmacy to pick up your prescription, you have to get the car keys from your neighbor. That is your sole task for this scene. Get your car keys from the neighbor, no matter what happens. So he says, okay. So he goes to the neighbor. This is all acting. Knocks on the door. Neighbor opens the door, covered head to toe in blood. He asks her, can I borrow the keys? And then the director comes in and is like, cut, stop. Michael, he says, what? You did not need to ask for the keys there. The story changed. She opens the door covered in blood. Whatever your little question that you had asked her doesn't matter. You need to react to that. And so I take that into interview mode. I keep that top of mind where it's like, I have a story in my head that I'm trying to unfold and stick to, but Jen could say something that I had no idea she was going to say. There was a lot of stuff in that conversation I did not know you were going to say, where I have to then say to myself, I wasn't expecting to go there, but I think we need to go there. So let me, throw my script aside and let's just be in it. And then, this show is also highly edited. So I can also after the fact be like, okay, that rabbit hole actually didn't lead us anywhere. I'm going to cut it out. So there's all sorts of things I'm juggling during an interview. It's my script. But should I deviate from the script? It's time concerns as well. Like I only have Jen for 90 minutes. I still have to hit X, Y, and Z. There's a lot of things I'm juggling during an interview.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to think about like our own conversation, and I definitely know I went down some rabbit holes and I was like, this does not belong there. Yeah. But there were other things where I felt like, I made a bold statement and you didn't go down that path. And I feel like even in this conversation, I don't know, I think I'm having an appreciation moment for what it's like to be the host, because like, I really want to deep dive down that. I really wanted to talk about that just within the last 10 minutes. Yeah. But I do have a path I'm hoping to go down. But at the same time, we just don't have enough time to go into all of those things. So hence we'll have to have a follow-up. This is my pitch to come back. Yes, of course.
Hosting podcasts is so hard. People think it's so easy. My favorite stat is there's 6 million podcasts you can listen to on Spotify right now. Only 12 to 15% of them have put out an episode in the last month because it's so hard. People think it's easy. It's a low barrier to entry. It's not that expensive. Anyone truly can start a podcast. But then they start that podcast, they realize this is hard. And then we have this phenomena called pod fade, where it takes about 6 months for the average podcaster to stop.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, the same thing happens in small businesses, right? As soon as you hit that little bit of resistance, then you're like, I don't know what next step to take, so I won't take any.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's actually kind of sad because some of those things really need to live on. Mm-hmm. Was there a moment in the last couple of years where you wanted, 18 months, where you wanted to quit Seacoast Stories? And if so, what pulled you back in?
There hasn't been a moment yet. I love the work. If I were to lay out everything I do for Seacoast Stories in a job description, I would sign up for that 11 times out of 10. Everything I'm doing is everything I love to do. So I love the job itself. There's times where I've certainly been, man, I would love to not do this part of it. I would love to hire out for this. And so that's still definitely my North Star, to not be able to have to, do everything and be everything for everyone. But I've never wanted to not be doing it. I remember having the conversation with Alyssa Pine on our episode. She runs the Live Freely Market. She said, I don't remember my life before the Live Freely Market. And in a way, I don't remember my life before Seacoast Stories. And you probably don't remember your life before Lainey and Lou, because it's just so... it takes over and it dominates every thought, but I'm also not mad about that. Like I'm obsessed with it in good, healthy ways. I've never wanted to quit. I don't want to be anywhere else. I have the last few weeks really been thinking about, I saw this list, Awful Announcing is this like sports media website that's very popular. And it came out with this list of like the 20 youngest stars in sports media. And I knew and had worked with 10 of them. And I had this moment where I said, man, I could be on that list. I know I could be on that list. I should be on that list. Had I stayed in the biz, I would be on that list. Am I really going to be the Seacoast podcast guy? Like, is that going to be my claim to fame, my legacy? when I know I could be doing things where the impact is being felt far beyond the scope of the Seacoast. And I just kind of said to myself, I know I could do that. And that's good enough for me knowing I could do that. I was on that trajectory, but I left that because I was simultaneously in that world working on Seacoast Stories and wanting to go further into Seacoast Stories by the day, as I was realizing just like, these people don't care about me in this world. People tell me all the time via DMs, these listeners that I'm breaking my backs for, they're telling me my voice sucks and that my opinions are stupid. And I'm breaking my back for them. And I'm like, why? Why am I doing that? Why am I doing that for these listeners? Why am I doing that for these bosses? To where at the end of the day, in the media business where things are very turbulent right now, I'm just a number on a spreadsheet. Why am I breaking my back for these people? And the energy in Seacoast Stories is just a completely different energy. Sure, I'm reaching way fewer people than I did on that work, but it's just so much more meaningful and impactful for a lot of the reasons that we've talked about today. And it just lights me up so much more inside than that other stuff. But I still do. The ego still wants me to be like, I know I could reach more people. I know I could be bigger. So I'm constantly having to wrestle with that, where I'm like, it's not when I stop Seacoast Stories out of a disdain for Seacoast Stories. I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, I know I could be on CBS right now. I know I could be teaming up with Netflix for something. So I do wrestle with that.
But that doesn't mean that your next evolution might be that, or something similar.
Yeah. Again, I'm just about to turn 30. I'm still young in this game.
Yes. Yeah. Many more chapters to come, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to challenge you to say that I can see what you're saying. And I have the ability to, potentially touch more people if I were in these worlds. However, you cannot underestimate the impact that you're having, because if you think about each person that you're touching here, and then the number of people that they touch,
right,
and then the number of people that they touch. So even if they're just sharing one inspiration, one thing they learned, one takeaway with another person to another person to another person, like that ripple effect. I call it layers of impact. You can't underestimate what that is. Yeah. And I've traveled across the world and mentioned, I kid you not, I have across the world and mentioned Lainey and Lou. And I have had people light up and say, I've heard about you. And then I'm like, I'll challenge them. And then they'll say something and I'll be like, oh my God, they really actually have.
Oh my God.
So those are the moments where you go, oh, whoa.
Wow.
So you're, again, especially in the world of podcasting, your product can travel. Yeah. Like mine can't go very far.
Yeah.
So, I guess you can take a protein bar to the other side of the world, but at the end of the day, you never know who's listening that's not in New Hampshire, not in New England.
Yeah.
Right.
I got a great message last week from someone who lives in Ohio.
So cool.
And was like, hey, I'm moving to the Seacoast in 6 months and I wanted to prepare myself for life there. And I found your podcast. Now I'm so excited to move here. That was such a cool comment for me to get. On this subject, I did want to ask you, because after I read this article and went down this rabbit hole in my mind, I was thinking like, what keeps people on the Seacoast here? Because I know my infatuation with the Seacoast is that there's so many people in this area like yourself who are doing very big things, whose impact is being felt far beyond the Seacoast and who could do very well in other parts of the country, in bigger markets, if you will. So I was thinking like, man, David Vargas and Evan Hennessy, these are James Beard award-winning chefs. They could be in New York City. They could be in Las Vegas. Why are they here? What keeps them here? And so for you could be doing big things in other areas where you can reach more people, where you would be a bigger star, where you would get more followers, etc. So why are you still here?
I don't know, maybe because I've not lived in the other places. So for me, like I've fallen in love with the Seacoast and I've been here for 25 years, I guess. And so proximity is really critical for me because as an adventurer, I can get to the mountains, the ocean, the rivers, the lakes, mountain biking, hiking, all of the things within an hour, within 20 minutes of my apartment. And, 3 hours for some of the most epic skiing ever. So that's a really big draw for me. But the community, especially in the last 12 years, I have not seen in my travels and my conversations with other entrepreneurs, a community that is so lit up as ours. And then the philanthropy and the way that the community ignites around each other. Like you said earlier, the support and the mindfulness, the way we care for each other. I really don't know if it's like that. You know, like you were just talking to Ellie on your podcast about your journey with diabetes, which I want to get into in a little bit here. But one of the things she talked about was, you know, how lonely she was in New York and the phenomena of being in bigger cities, but feeling so alone. So more people, more access, more things does not necessarily equal more happiness. And there's something truly special about here. So for me, I guess I'll just answer, I'm saying for the people primarily and the relationships that have been created. They're very valuable to me.
Yeah.
And for you?
We do have something very special here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. I mean, the community's, it's unmatched. It's truly, and why I wanted to live here, plant down roots here, start the podcast here was there's something special here. There's something unique. There's a ride or die, support local. People want to see you win. Shout out to the Seacoast.
Yeah. Can we talk about your diabetes for a second?
Sure.
Okay. So I loved the podcast. Thank you for being so transparent and honest, sharing your story. I think in conversation with Ellie was a really beautiful way of doing it. I know for you, it's been challenging. We've had some private conversations around it. And so I'm just kind of curious, like, how did you feel after the show?
I felt after I recorded that podcast with Ellie, that felt good to me to talk to someone else about it. I don't think anyone's going to care. I am proud of myself for having that conversation. She held space for me in that one. I don't think anyone's going to care. I'm coming to accept that this episode's numbers are going to be lower than some of the others. You know, it's the holiday season. I'm okay to punt on an episode not doing well. And I've been surprised by the reaction to it. Several people telling me that was the best episode yet. I said, what? I thought you wouldn't care one bit. I thought it would just come off as me complaining and bitching and that you guys wouldn't be curious to know more about this. But I got a lot of comments. This was the best episode yet. I didn't know X, Y, and Z about type 1 diabetes, but I'm so glad I know now. So after I recorded it, I thought no one's going to care. But after it came out, I was like, wow, I'm actually surprised how fascinating people found this. A lot of people telling me they cried when they heard me tell the story of me coming to grips with my own mortality while hiking Mount Shakura. And I certainly didn't expect that reaction. So maybe I should have had more faith in the people of the Seacoast that they would hold space for me in that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I think there's just so much baked into what you just said. You can tell me if I'm full of shit. But is there a possibility that for you, when you say people don't care or people won't care, that's actually representative of how you think they might feel about you?
Yes, that's a good point. As I said earlier, I kind of hide behind the microphone asking questions. Yes, I am curious about you, but it also is a protective shield around me to not have to talk about me. And so, yeah, so I think, yeah, I guess I do kind of walk around with like, I don't think people care about this. This is something I've experienced a lot with Seacoast Stories that has been a negative of it. I get a lot of requests from people to come on the show, a lot of requests to show up at events, a lot of requests to do X, Y, and Z that I don't want to do. People stopping me at events. These people see right past me, the person. They see what Seacoast Stories is. They see what I can do for them. They see what business I can bring them, how I can spotlight them, but they don't see me, the person. That has been tough. So I still think there's a lot going upstairs that people just see me as a means for them. They don't see me. And so I think with talking about diabetes, that's a fear as well, as like people aren't going to see me as a person. They're just going to see me like bitching about this thing that I have to deal with that they don't understand.
What do you want people to see?
I want people to give me the same attention that I give them. I was on a quasi date recently, and someone was navigating like a work thing that like wasn't that important. It could have waited, but she was on her phone a lot during it, and I was just like, I'm giving you my time and attention. You should give that back to me. And I just remember feeling so disgusted after that. And so I love giving my time and attention to people. Relationships are the most important thing to me. Spending quality time with other people is the most important thing in my life. And when other people don't give me that, it just drives a knife through me. Yeah, I wish other people would see the importance of the conversations that I like to have and would want to have them back with me. You're getting a good start on doing that right now.
Well, I think I see you. I hope that you feel me seeing you.
Yeah. Thank you. I do want to share a story that no one on the Seacoast knows. Wait, this podcast is going to come out on this day. Wow. December 1st, 2012, 13 years ago, my best friend, Deanna Rivers, was killed in a car crash in upstate New York. She was in a car with 3 other people. 2 died, 2 survived, by this asshole named Dennis Drew. Drunk, high, speeding, texting, triple lane change, 90 miles an hour, destroyed this vehicle, upended our community. It was the craziest night ever. The next few days were surreal. She was my best friend. We were in a little fight during that, her story of my life. Her boyfriend was mad at me for spending too much time with his girlfriend. I had introduced them, like, you didn't need to be threatened, bro. And so we were just kind of like, we weren't really talking at that point. Things were weird. We had seen each other the night before, awkward wave, and that was that. And then she gets killed the next night. And my big takeaway from that was never leave on bad terms with someone. You never know when they could be gone, when you could be gone. Make the most of every second that you have with the people that you care about. Tell them that you love them at any point, even if it feels weird. And so when I say that spending time with other people in real life is the most important thing in the world to me, that is why. It's because I lived with this regret, knowing that I could have repaired that relationship before this small thing came in the way. And that's how I have to remember Deanna. Like, that look she gave me that Friday night before the Saturday night that car killed her is what I have to live with. And so now when I am with other people, I want that to be like the best night ever, every time, because I know I might not see you tomorrow or ever again, or vice versa. Is you texting on that night with me? If I die tomorrow, you have to live with that forever. That's how you spent your last moments with me. That's what drives a lot of what I do.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, she was special. I should have answered this earlier. She was my biggest believer. She always told me I was going to do something big.
Wow. Thank you. That was a very special story.
Yeah, 13 years ago today.
I feel inspired to say that you deserve everything that you want. You deserve to feel special. You are more than enough. You are doing more than enough. And I think there are plenty of people around you that see it and feel it and want nothing but the world for you. And we are all grateful to be in your orbit. So thank you for being you.
Thank you, Jen. I appreciate that.
Should we lighten it up a little bit?
Yeah, let's go to some of the listener questions.
Can we do rapid fire?
Do you want any photos, Lindsay? Do you want us to like look nice with you?
I'm watching her sitting over here just crying.
Coming up, We lighten the mood with the burning questions you asked us on social media. But first, Little Tree Education is the Montessori school that somehow makes kids want to learn and parents actually excited about the drop-off. Little Tree serves infants, toddlers, and preschoolers from 6 weeks to 6 years across Dover, Madbury, and Newmarket. Since opening in 2013, they've grown to over 350 families, 80 teachers, and about 1 million tiny pairs of shoes that somehow all end up in the wrong cubby. Now, if you're wondering, what is a Montessori school exactly? Well, it's not Hogwarts, but it's pretty close. Kids learn at their own pace, guided by curiosity instead of worksheets. They build independence, confidence, and all those cool life skills you wish you had had at 5 years old. It's more than a school, it's a community. Families call Little Tree their home away from home, and some of their teachers have even been there since day one. Enrollment for spring and fall 2026 is now open. And if you apply before December 31st, my birthday by the way, you'll get 50% off your application fee with the code Seacoast Stories on their website. That's Seacoast Stories, all one word, when you apply using the link in the show notes. Thank you, Little Tree, for supporting the show. Now on to our Ask Me Anything segment with Jen Wilder. We solicited questions on Instagram to be submitted either via email, voice message, or just responding to the sticker. Many of you chimed in with questions for either specifically addressed to me or to Jen or for the both of us. So we'll navigate this, Jen. The first one comes from James. This came from email. This is for Jen. James says, sprinkling fairy dust. What does it look and feel like to be Jennifer in 5 years?
Okay. I'm going to relate this to age only because I feel like it's just really real. So right now I am turning 49 in March. I know it's a number, but it's actually becoming one of those things where I think about, I'm like, okay, but what's your legacy? Because now we're going into the second half. What are we doing here? And I feel like I am at a place where I actually really don't know. And I'm not loving that. I don't love the lack of clarity because I know I'm at a place now where I'm confident that whatever I put my attention to will grow. And so I'm asking myself, where do I want to put my attention? And I know that, all 3 or 4 of my brands have a lot of, they have a lot of legs, but they're all very special in their own way. And I just don't know, do I want to try to do it all or do I want to try to just do one thing? So I'm right now in this place where I'm opening up to the universe in a very woo way. Like, can I attract abundance in? Can I attract the right people in that will take me to the next place? Not as a, that just sounds awful, like a not very gracious, but want to walk on this journey with me. Does that make more sense? So right now, I guess in 5 years, sprinkling the fairy dust, I hope to be in a very loving and satisfying, equally mutually satisfying relationship with a man. And I hope that my businesses are growing and producing good profits so that, I have a greater sense of freedom, but also can have even more impact on the community. And I know that's a little bit vague, but I feel like that's just like the best that I can do. I know I want to create a lot of abundance for myself because I know with that, that will open more doors for me to be able to impact more. My ultimate fairy dust would be that I'm able to do that in a really big way because I would love, 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 love to be able to be in a place where I can invest in other women own businesses and help them grow. To be, a little bit of an angel investor or something like that would be deeply, deeply satisfying to me.
Okay. Well, on a related note, we have a question from my neighbor who stopped me in person for Jen. After listening to your episodes, it seems like you are moving away from wanting to expand restaurants and focusing more on being a thought leader or a Mel Robbins type. Is that actually the case? And if so, what does that look like for you?
I think I've always wanted to be a coach and someone that educates and inspires and empowers others, especially women. I've always wanted to do that, at least very clearly for the last 12 years. So I don't feel like I'm in a place where I'm not putting time and attention and growth and energy into my restaurants. I think I'm just returning back to an original hope and dream and vision for my life. I think that I can do both. In fact, I know I can do both. And I'm in a place where if someone's saying, no, you can't, then I'm kind of walking away from that energy. That's your limiting belief. Would you tell Oprah that? Would you tell Gwyneth Paltrow that? Would you tell Kim Kardashian that? You can do both. I just need to be really strategic in the way that I systematize my businesses, the people that surround me, and hopefully I'm surrounded by people that, like yourself, that continue to lift me up and encourage me to do those big, bold things.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
We got you. Want to hear a fun fact?
Yeah.
Few months before I started Seacoast Stories, in the same month, I was approached by Mel Robbins' team, by Mr. Beast's team to be a producer for each of them. With Mr. Beast, I was like, I'm a podcast guy. He does these crazy Hollywood-like YouTube videos. Are you sure you want to interview me? They said, yeah, we want to talk to you. Interviewed with his team, went great. And they were like, we love you. We would love to hire you, but we don't do podcasts. And I was like, I could have told you that. But anyway, so they sought me out, and Mel Robbins' team did as well. We had a good conversation, but I don't know, it didn't feel like a great fit. So I didn't really try to pursue anything there. But I say that to say, just to like pat myself on the back, because I don't do that enough. I think if there's one thing I want people to know about me, you know, I haven't gotten this that much, but in the first few months I did, people would be like, oh, like, that's cute. You have a podcast. And I want people to know that I am a professional of like the highest order. ESPN, Spotify, again, hundreds of thousands of people listening to these shows, and Mr. Beast approaching me and Mel Robbins approaching me. And then I know I could go work for some big company tomorrow, and I'm just choosing not to because I love the Seacoast so much and love this so much. So I suppose that's something I would want people to know.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Fully my ego talking here.
I think that's interesting, the statement from the person about, you know, where I was, what they were kind of garnering from my podcast with you, because what was actually happening at that exact time is I had attracted into Laney and Lou, a hospitality company with 63 restaurants and a specific franchisee group. And so these were the biggest restaurateurs that I had ever talked to in my entire life, to my knowing. And because of them, I attracted in a couple of other big players in the hospitality world, and then another big player in the hospitality world. And so what was happening was I was getting all of this information and feedback coming back through me from, you know, to me, these are unfiltered lenses. They don't know who I am. They really don't know Laney and Lou very well. They don't really know the Seacoast very well. And they are chatting with me from purely a hospitality business standpoint. And the two that have the large franchisee group, they came through. They compared me to Ron Shake, who owns Cava, Life Alive, and one other big business. What's wrong with me? A former CEO of Panera, and said Laney and Lou is the best fine fast casual restaurant we have ever walked through. This is one of the most, if not the most, creative culinary menus that we have ever seen in this category, and the execution of it is incredible. And so you've got something really special here. You could take this to 200. So you got to find the right people. You got to find the right investors to help you get there. But you have something really incredible here. So while I was on the podcast, I was like, do I say anything? And so since then, it's like, okay, what's next? Like, how do I bring in those right people?
What does it feel like to have that level of validation?
I fucking knew it. That's how I say. I know.
Yeah.
I know. So it's got to, like, do I really want to do it though? Because it's a lot of work.
Do you?
Do I really want to do it? I don't know.
Sounds like you have some soul searching to do.
I don't want to do it alone.
Here's a question from Jenna, submitted via voice message.
Okay, so I really admire that both of you have this ability to create environments where people just naturally come together. I have made some wonderful friends in these spaces, and I think everyone benefits when there are more opportunities for us to connect with each other. So what would you say to encourage more people out there to nurture their community, whether they're putting together a larger gathering, showing up to something that they may not know anyone, or just setting up a coffee date with a new friend?
Okay, so great question from Jenna. What can we do to nurture our community? I mean, I'm just I take rejection like it just rolls off the back of me. People don't want to ask someone for coffee or for a meeting or to go to an event out of fear of rejection. I do not care. So I will just shamelessly, if there's someone I want to talk to, someone I want to meet, I will make it happen. I know other people don't see it that way, but I'm just such a big fan of just going for it. Send the message, send the email. We tell ourselves these stories about, they're not going to want to talk to me. They're not going to want to help me. People get so flattered when you ask them, hey, I just want 45 minutes of your time to hear about your story, to what lessons or advice that you wish someone had told you when you were in my position. You know, people will be down to do that. So nurturing community, making connections, go for it, show up to the thing, put your best foot forward, and just go for it. Don't tell yourself these old stories that no one's going to want to meet you and that no one's going to care. Like, just do it.
I completely agree with that. And I think also if you get rejected or they don't respond, it has absolutely nothing to do with you, right? Like you and I are incredibly busy. Everyone's incredibly busy, but you also don't know what chapter in life or what they're dealing with behind the scenes.
Right.
So if someone doesn't get back to you, it probably has nothing to do with you. It most likely does not. And then go back again, right? Because oftentimes we're getting communicated to in a million different ways on a million different platforms. And so for me, like my DMs disappear. So it's like, just ask again. Yeah. I also think the number of people that come up to me and say, I'm going to ask you for a coffee. I want to do this and then never follow through. Yeah. Follow through. Yeah. Because I want to say yes. And again, if I have to push you off, I will. But again, not personal. Okay. One little trick I use when I go to events, because I actually am very shy. I'm more of an extroverted introvert. Okay. Oh my gosh. Walking into a full room that is not a room that I've curated is so scary.
Really?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Why? I don't know. I just think I'm shy. I've had, a lot of old stories probably from my childhood of not being the popular kid or whatever. So sometimes it's just like, do I really belong here or whatever? But
interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell a story about, I got invited to a lunch or a dinner, with 9 very, very influential women out of the blue last week. And I walked into that room like sweating bullets. And as soon as I saw those 9 women, I thought, I don't belong here. Like my credibility is not such that allows me to sit at this table. And I need to take a deep breath and tell myself, like, you got invited for a reason. And then I sat down, and a woman that I respect very much was sitting across the table from me, and she didn't even look at me, not even eyes up. And so I just said, kill her with kindness. And I reached my hand across the table and I was like, hi, I'm Jen. We've met before. I'm the owner of Laney and Lou. And she just lit up, because she was like, oh my God, I knew you looked familiar, but I didn't know where I knew you. So I was feeling shy and I didn't say hi. And I was like, wow. In that moment, I had made such a story up of her. She didn't want me there. She didn't like me. She didn't know why I was there, blah, 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 blah. And there it was. And then she shared the most beautiful story about something that my business did to impact hers.
Aww.
So I was like, that's why you have to lean in, even when you're uncomfortable.
Yes, because you never know what could arise from it, right?
That's right.
You made a beautiful connection that now may serve you beyond that very lunch. So thank you for sharing that. Alex D wants to know, favorite song to sing in the car?
Oh my God.
I will go first. This has been a recent obsession of mine. Don't Let Me Down by the Chainsmokers, Millennium Remix. This has become such a bop for me recently, and it's got a Seacoast twist because it always does. So I recently switched gyms. I'm now going to Studio One because I literally live right next to it. So I'm sorry for waiting so long to join you guys. And I went to a spin class. Maddie Woods was the teacher, And sometimes they do these themed classes. So it was Illenium versus Odessa. And I love just like remix club jams. I don't know why, but I do. And so Don't Let Me Down, Dea is the lead singer in it. And so it's just like, it's a girl jam. But I love girl jams. But I'm sometimes insecure in that like deep down, I'm really just a 13-year-old girl reflected in my music taste. And so it's a class, 40 people in there, maybe 2 men, and Don't Let Me Down comes on. It's one of my favorites, and I just want to sing at the top of my lungs, but I'm so insecure about being the guy in the room singing Dea at the top of his lungs. So I'm not singing at the start. And then Maddie says, the instructor, if you know this song, sing it at the top of your lungs. You don't have to hide who you are. And that just hit. That hit so hard in that moment. And then I just screamed that song at the top of my lungs. And it felt so good to be seen in that way, to be given permission. Troy, you don't have to hide this feminine side of yourself that I love about myself. You don't need to have this like protector masculine energy all the time. You can lean into that side of you too. And it's welcomed here. That felt so good to me. So right now, that is my favorite song to sing in the car.
Heck yeah. Okay, I'm going to go put that song on when I jump in the van. It seems like a good one for Torta as well. But I will say, okay,
that's
big,
your vehicle.
Big Illenium, big Odessa fan, 100% with you. But I am all day, every day about Hazlitt and anyone that's equally as sad as him. And I saw him perform live in Portland.
Wow.
Not too long ago, I guess 3 to 6 months ago or whatever. And he did say, he goes, I literally sing the saddest music, but I am not a sad guy. And I just love it. I don't know why I love Hazlitt, Hazlett.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I just think, I don't know what it is, like any music that really makes me feel a lot of emotion. I'm all about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to go put this on the playlist. This question comes from Alex B. What is something you believed for far too long? I think I know your answer. Is it
Tell me.
When you were in yoga teacher training, I believe, and you were doing the partner experiment where you're looking deeply into someone's eyes?
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
My success is directly tied to my, my career. Yes.
Yeah.
It's 100% not true. And it's still not true.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go with that. Thank you.
I did this experiment that you spoke about last week in a very bizarre thing I was invited to. But basically I was paired with a random woman. She doesn't know me. I don't know her. We are forced to sit directly across from each other 20 minutes, staring into each other's left eye, going back and forth with each other, her telling me what she sees when she looks at me, and her saying how she feels with me looking at her. And we did that vice versa. The first and second things that she said to me when she saw me, number one, she said, I see confidence. Number two, she said, I see calm. And with that being how someone else saw me when they were forced to look at me, felt so good because I was so not confident for so long. Because as I said earlier, I'd kind of been beaten down by a lot of my male role models. And as I got into the workforce as well, told that your voice doesn't matter, like you're my bitch, essentially. And for that to be what someone now sees, and I feel confident now. I started developing confidence 4 or 5 years ago when I started making a lot of money. I was, not only working at Spotify, but also had some side jobs sort of cobbled together. Like I was making far more than any 25-year-old ever does in media. Like thought I'd be making what I at age 50. That gave me so much confidence because now I can go to the carriage house and take a date out there and it's fine. I can pick up the tab for people. I can travel willy-nilly. It's fine. As I was going through this big transformation this year, I was wondering, okay, I'm going to take such a huge salary hit. Am I going to take a massive confidence hit? Is that going to completely disappear? And I was so afraid of that. And that's why I hemmed and hawed for so long as well. Not only the money itself, but like what would losing the money do to my psyche? And for me to lose the money, but for the confidence to still be there, for other people to see it and for me to still feel it, feels amazing. That's what people say.
That's good. I mean, it's palpable and it makes so much sense to me because there's incredible amount of meaning behind what you're doing. And so with meaning comes value. And that is way more valuable than money. And I think what we're hoping is, and what so many people that I look up to have done is create something meaningful and the abundance will come. And again, like we said, that's the freedom to be able to create greater levels of impact.
Yeah. So I suppose unintentionally, I answered that question. What is something I believed for far too long? Probably that, I wasn't worthy and that I wasn't the star of the show, if you will, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Next one, also Luana, or where did 20-year-old Troy expect to be at 30? Because I'm approaching my 30th birthday here. So, all right. 20-year-old Troy was a junior at the University of Albany, studying abroad in Glasgow, Scotland, was where I was at age 20. I gave so little thought to my future. When I was in high school, my senior year of high school, I was captain of the basketball team. I was singing opera. I was one of the best singers in the state. I had an amazing girlfriend, amazing friends. I loved my senior year of high school and high school experience. I didn't want to think about life beyond that because the life was so good. So I totally half-assed the college application process. I applied to 5 or 6 schools, had no idea what I wanted to study, had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up, never had an answer to that question. Ended up going to UAlbany, didn't want to, but didn't know what I want to study. Went in undeclared, eventually declared history, and then found the media thing because it's in my blood and started doing that. But never had a dream until my senior year of... No, I'm sorry. I was a senior my junior year, so in 3 years. In spring of 2017, when I'm about to graduate, I then had the dream of I want to be on documentaries. There's this show that ESPN did called E60. It's like ESPN's version of 60 Minutes. And this guy, Jeremy Schaap, hosts it. His father, Dick Schaap, was a legendary ABC News anchor. And Jeremy was a sports media legend in his own right. And so I would watch E60 on Sundays and be like, I want to be that guy. I want to walk through the rubble of Hurricane Katrina, with the football player who just lost everything, and ask them questions about how they feel. And I want to do deeply impactful stuff like that. And talk about manifesting. I not only get hired at ESPN, a couple months after that, I became his producer 7 months after dreaming of being him one day, and then got to learn alongside him and under him. And so in this crazy roundabout way, 20-year-old Troy wanted to be on air documentaries, wanted to be like Jeremy Schaap, telling impactful, moving stories. But then I fade into the background doing behind the scenes work, studying, learning, observing, asking questions, putting myself in rooms that people were annoyed that I was putting myself in, but I put myself there anyway, learning how to do this. And so that where I think at, age 31, 32, I might become Jeremy Schaap and set out to do exactly what I wanted to do. I'm already the Seacoast version of it. And maybe, I'll be doing it bigger and better in a few years. So it's crazy how everything makes sense in hindsight. Someone asked me the other day, if someone were writing a book about your life, what would you call it? And I said, everything makes sense. Every heartbreak, every side path that you took, every detour, it's all going to make sense in the end.
100%. I couldn't agree more. But can we just go back? Did you just say that you were singing opera?
Yeah.
Did anybody know this?
Did you not know this?
No.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
How do I not know that?
Yeah, I'm a classically trained opera singer.
Okay.
I used to sing in Italian, French, Latin, German. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I think that's it. Do you have any more questions, or we tackled them all?
I think we tackled them all. I could go on and on and on. So
okay. Well, we just might have to do it again. We just might have to do it again. She's Jen Wilder. I'm Trey Farkas. You can find Jen every day at Laney and Lou in the West End Yards in Portsmouth. You can find me, Seacoast Stories podcast, Instagram. We're doing Seacoast Stories live at 3S Art Space in just a couple days, December 5th, 7:30 show. I'm talking to Erin Holt, Laura Fox, Dagan from Liar's Bench. And then before that, we're doing Seacoast Stories Dinner Club in downtown Portsmouth. Dinner and a show. What a great way to close out the year, and I can't wait to celebrate with you all. Jen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Troy. It was so much fun, and I'll see you at the podcast.
Can't wait.